what you see on the news. We are actually living in the safest time in all of human history. There are roughly 200 corpses on Mount Everest that are used as waypoints for climbers. That France was still executing by guillotine during the first Star Wars movie. Betelgeuse is the 31st biggest star we know of in the universe. It is so big that if you replaced our sun and put Betelgeuse in its spot, Betelgeuse would almost reach Jupiter's orbit. That in World War II, an American airman by the name of Alan McGee survived a free fall from 22,000 feet without a parachute and becoming a prisoner of war for 2 years. In 1943 he was in a B-17 making a bombing run over France when plane's wing was shot off by German fighters. As the plane entered a spin he leapt out without a parachute and immediately lost consciousness from the altitude. After falling 4 miles he crashed through the glass ceiling of the street Nazaire railroad station and onto the floor below where he was captured as a prisoner of war. He suffered almost 30 shrapnel wounds, several broken bones, severe damage to his nose, eyes, lungs, kidneys, and his right arm was nearly severed off. His captors treated him back to health. He was liberated in 1945 and awarded an Air Medal and a Purple Heart. Edit. Grammar. Olympus Mons on Mars, the tallest known mountain in the solar system, is so large at its base that an observer on its peak wouldn't know he was standing on a mountain because its slope would be obscured by the curvature of the planet itself. Edit. Thanks for the gold kind Reddit stranger. The longest piece of literature in the English language is 3.5 million words long and counting. Is written by a 21-year-old guy in Arizona and is a fanfiction of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Edit. Apparently, now it has over 4 million words. The placebo effect can still happen when you know you're taking a placebo. There are more atoms in a teaspoon of water than there are teaspoons of water in the Atlantic. School buses used to be orange before they changed them to yellow for visibility. US Coast Guard helicopters used to be yellow before they changed them to orange for visibility. Giraffes and humans possess the same amount of neck bones. The same. Edit. The next person to suggest I use number in place of amount gets a shiny sticker. In the mid-1880s aluminum was more valuable than gold. Now we use it expendably to wrap food. The 15 largest ships create more pollution than every car on the planet combined. Barcode scanners read the white bars, not the black bars. Crocodiles are essentially immortal and die not through old age, but because they become so large that feeding themselves sufficiently becomes too momentous a task and they starve to death. T-Rexes lived closer to a live Miley Cyrus concert than they did to a Stegosaurus. Male Irish mummies are often found with nipple mutilations, leading many experts to believe Irish leaders may have worn nipple rings, as kissing a king's nipple was believed to be a sign of respect. That humans almost went extinct 75,000 years ago. Total population drop into around 15,000, destroying much of our genetic diversity. Eels actually have 2 jaws. The first being like a normal jaw, the second being hidden in their throat. The secondary jaw lunges forward when the eel bites down on prey, bites down on the piece within the mouth and bites a chunk out of it, pulling it down the throat. Think about the alien in the movie Alien. The secondary mini mouth they use is based off an eel's anatomy. Edit. Thanks for my highest rated comment ever. Close bracket. People have graffitied dicks onto the Great Wall of China that have existed for longer than the USA. The rate of concussions is higher in women's college soccer than it is in men's college football. When you speak inside your mind, small muscles in your throat mimic the formation of each word. There is more bacteria living inside a single person's digestive system than the number of human beings who have ever existed in history. That if sound waves could travel through space, the sun burning would sound as loud as a chainsaw at about 10 meters. Cicadas live underground for several years and emerge only to reproduce. The number of years they take to come above ground is mostly a prime number. Each species has its own prime number of years they stay underground. The reason to be a prime number is that it reduces drastically the chance of two different species meeting above ground in the same year and crossbreed, weakening the genes of both species. Edit. As several people pointed out, crossbreeding might be actually good for the evolution on the long run. However, each species is already refining their genes for ages. If they crossbreed, they have to start over the whole process. Edit. Another reason for the weird reproduction cycle is avoiding predators and competition among species, according to some replies. If you count how many times a cricket chirps in 15 seconds and add 37, you get the temperature in Fahrenheit. Cleopatra lived closer to today than to the time the pyramids were built. Also, Oxford University was founded before the Aztec Empire. Saudi Arabia imports sand and camels from Australia. In considering the creation of the universe, either there was nothing, and then there was something, or there has always been something. Both of those are impossible, but one of them is true. No one ant knows how an ant colony works. Yet an ant colony emerges from many ants. Each single ant is following its basic impulses and reflexes based on its immediate surroundings. And yet the colony can react to intruders, build more tunnels, and gather food as if it were one large entity. It's a commonly known fact, but I think it's pretty mind-boggling when you think about it. Edit. What's even more mind-boggling is if you use this to think about your brain. Your neurons are the ants and your brain is the ant colony. Each neuron can receive electrical input from any number of other neurons firing. If the amount of input crosses a threshold, unique to each neuron, it itself fires. This electrical impulse then travels to any number of other neurons. And the same process occurs in each of them. This is how your brain works. From this simple process emerges complex thought. You are not the neurons in your brain. You are the extremely complex colony of neurons that emerges. Each neuron is utterly meaningless. But from this meaninglessness forms meaning. All the amazing things your brain can do. Edit 2. For further reading I recommend Godel Escherbach, An Eternal Golden Braid. Chapter 11. By Douglas Hofstadter, and the preceding section. And Fugue. You can walk from North Korea to Norway and only pass through one other country on the way. Quartz landed in South America or the New World and spread diseases that after 80 years killed 21 million natives. 21 million people in 80 years. That's 262. 500 people dying annually. 730 people dying daily and 30 people hourly. For 80 years straight. Astronomer here. The most powerful magnetic fields in the universe are from magnetars, which are neutron stars with crazy magnetic fields. How crazy? Well, on Earth, your typical magnet has a strength of about 1.25 Tesla. A magnetar will have 10 circumflex 10 Tesla. This is so strong that the magnetic field would literally kill you if you get within 1,000 kilometers of the magnetar by distorting the electrons in your body too much. Even more interesting. While there are some theories out there, no one really knows why these souped up magnetic fields exist at all. Neutron stars have tons of mysteries. Edit. Lots of people are asking what exactly happens to you. Basically all the electrons in the atoms in your body would be stripped away. So all the molecules would break apart. So you'd be ionized into a whiff of plasma. Basically. If you were being sucked into a black hole and could somehow stop, turn around and look back out into space, you could see the whole fate of the universe play out before your eyes due to time dilation. You could watch the birth and death of stars in the blink of an eye. It would be quite a light show. That's despite what they might have you believe. Literally no one has ever had their mind blown by a BuzzFeed article. The fact that recently a group of scientists went to investigate a forest of trees that were able to live for thousands of years on their own, and ended up finding traces of massive radiation in the very early rings of the trunks. All of them had this in the same spots. around the same time. Judging by the average age of the trees and the rings the radiation was located in, there was a battle involving the Crusaders, Des Volt BTW. And one of the soldiers' uncovered diaries had described seeing the image of the cross burning like fire in the sky, which had given them extra morale, and then they won the battle. So, using logic, you can guess that this cross in the sky was what caused the radiation. And I can hear you thinking, how in the fuck? Well, I can proudly tell you that literally no one knows. The random events, the accidents, and the conscious decisions that took place just to get me here. I just think of my own life and how I would have a totally different wife and kids if my dad didn't take XX job in XX city. Or if my parents didn't get divorced. Or of course me not even being here at all if they didn't have sex that night I was conceived. Etc. What if mom had a headache that night, or dad said something wrong at dinner? Or what if he did and it was the makeup sex that really got me here? Then multiply all those possibilities times each preceding generation and thousands of years of ancestry and humanity. Shit. Each one of us is a miracle resulting from a combination of events whose odds I can't even fathom. According to every tale, Cleopatra was closer to cutting her hand in Django Unchained than Steve Buscemi was to landing the moon on World Trade Center. A supernova seen from the distance the sun is to the earth will be brighter, in terms of energy delivered to your retina, than a hydrogen bomb pressed against your eyeball. By 9 orders of magnitude. In World War II, a Hungarian mathematician named Abraham Wald developed a counterintuitive method for armor plate placement while studying damaged aircraft. He observed planes returning home from sorties with large holes in them, and was tasked with figuring out where to put armor plates. His crucial insight was to not put armor plates where the holes were. The holes in the aircraft that returned represented damage that did not impact the ability of the planes to return home. In other words, he made the critical observation of the bias in the data he was observing. He was only looking at planes that survived. With this knowledge, he instructed armor to be placed in areas that were not damaged, because if these areas were hit, there would be no damage in that component in the planes that returned home. The inscription on the One Ring from Lord of the Rings is not actually Elvish, which quite a few people mistake it to be, but an entirely different language that Tolkien created called the Black Speech of Mordor or Orcish. Tolkien has stated that he came up with the Black Speech by thinking of the most horrible things in his life, in particular his experiences from World War I. Which is why when you hear the Black Speech, such as when Sauron speaks it in LOTR and The Hobbit, it sounds like a dialect sent straight from hell. He grew to be disgusted by the language he created so much that when a fan sent him a wine goblet with the One Ring's inscription on it as a gift, he used it as an ashtray. North American area codes were originally assigned based on population size and the ease of dialing on a rotary phone. 212 went to New York. Fastest dial time possible for the most phoned area. 312 for Chicago. Alaska got 907. Mind you, this was when only 1 or 0 could be the middle digit in an area code. If you add up your area code with 0 being 10, you get a numerical ranking of your city-state's relative importance, if you will. This is no longer true, as any 3 numbers can be used for an area code, so these original area codes, like rotary phones, are a relic of the past. Edit. I had a couple area codes close but incorrect. My apologies. Thanks for the comment corrections, folks. There is microscopic organism called a tardigrade, also water bear, which can survive extreme environments, including the vacuum of space, by dehydrating its body and basically putting itself into stasis. Then, when conditions improve, it absorbs some water and goes back to doing whatever it does. From the time that it was discovered, 1930, to the time that it was declassified as a planet, 2006, Pluto made less than a third of a full revolution around the sun. There's a place in the universe called the Eridanus supervoid that's 1 billion light years across. In the 50s, when it was still okay to smoke in a courthouse. A lawyer might put a wire in his cigarette. That way, if the defense was really taking it to you, the jury would get distracted by your magical cigarette that never ashes. Case closed. That if you're late to work in the army, they can dock a week's pay, put you under 2 weeks house arrest, and make you cut the grass with scissors during that time. Source: me. Who did all that? A polar bear liver contains so much vitamin A. If you ate one, you would overdose on vitamin A and die. In a room with just 70 people, there is a 99.9% chance that 2 of them share the same birthday, day of the year. This is known as the birthday problem. Countries that are the 5 biggest arms manufacturers and exporters are all permanent members on the UN Security Council. Goods being transported in a car is called shipment, but when transported in a ship they are called cargo. There are more people in the US on food stamps than the entire population of Canada. Pneumonia ultramicroscopic silica volcaniconiosis is a lung disease you can get from breathing in volcanic ash. It's also the longest word in the English language. Dark matter isn't inert. It interacts with other dark matter. This means there could be dark atoms, dark molecules, dark planets, dark people. Over 90% of the universe is not observable. The cashew is a handle to a fruit called a merasoon, pronounced like lasagna. Meragnon. It is sweetened much like the consistency of a really fibrous peach. Here, http. Antigua de la Foto. ComWP content uploads /2009/3374714930293DC14D00. JPG is a good picture. The shell in which the cashew comes is toxic if eaten, but it is an ergonomically perfect natural handle for the fruit. Human female breasts are much bigger and curvier than animal breasts because of the evolution of the human nose. As the nose developed in Homo sapiens and previous species, the breast needed to be bigger and branch further out the chest so that the baby infant could actually manage to suck on the nipple. So the sun is pretty big, right? It'd take 1.3 million Earths to fill up the sun. But there are black holes that are 30 billion times the size mass of the sun. What? Edit. Equated size with mass. And to think I want to be a theoretical astrophysicist. I should just drop out now. The United States has more aircraft carriers than every other country combined. The United States has the biggest and second biggest air force in the world. If you took the United States military funding and cut it in half, it would still be the largest military spending in the world. America likes guns. The sun's core is so hot that a piece of it the size of a pinhead would give off enough heat to kill a person 99 miles away. Yet the surface of the sun is only 5,500 Celsius. The next layer, the chromosphere, is only 4,500 Celsius. Yet as it goes further out to the corona it jumps to 2 million C. The milk of a sperm whale is 98% milk fat and comes out with the consistency of toothpaste. Yum.